Yeah, we're live here on the Bro.
Maybe. Yeah, that's why. Nope, wrong one.
Hey, friends, welcome back to. Well, we're not going to do it. We're just going to send it. We're going to send it. We're going to send it. Okay. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't know. You say it. Were you going to say something?
I was going to say how long we could go silent for.
That's not how we get paid, Robert. Some of you may have seen the cover art. You said, boy, these little cartoon characters on this cover art, they're Cheers in a bottle. They got a demon flying up out of the bottle. There's aliens over one shoulder. There's Men in Black. There's a guy with an axe. There's aliens. There's death. There's murder. And just from the cover art itself, you could have said, I'm going to try this podcast out. Well, let me tell you something, S.A. You come to the wrong fucking neighborhood because we don't know what we're doing. We don't know anything about jack shit. Sometimes we make stuff up. Like this story we're telling tonight is not made up. But sometimes we just make stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to. We were just talking about that.
Just make it up.
The made up stuff is just as fun, if not more fun.
You found yourself at the cream spot, a.k.a. Project Penis. I'm the delicious Nicolicious.
Oh, I thought you were about to segue there and go to another little thing there. I'm Rob. Hey, guys, what's going on?
Yeah, I had nothing else planned. I got a big, juicy Arnold Palmer right here. Some of you that don't know what an Arnold Palmer is, it's a half lemonade, half tea. One of the most deliciously smooth drinks in all of the lands.
They are really good.
They are absolutely divine. Okay, Rob Dog, what's this episode's crazy, man. This is probably one of those ones where they come and kill us.
Cool.
I don't want to be killed.
You want to give a reminder about this weekend too?
Oh yeah. You can join us live for a live Zoom show. We're going to eat sour belly jelly beans. We're going to eat sour belly buttons. We're going to eat each other's
belly buttons.
You can join us on Zoom. It's going to be Saturday at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Let's face it, you guys ain't doing anything with your fucking weekend anyways.
It's $10. That goes towards the price of us buying really hot chocolates. Hot chocolates that almost kill us. Jelly beans that taste like shit. And really probably bugs. I told Rob I wanted to eat bugs for this one.
I've eaten bugs not in chocolate, so I think this will be okay.
He said, yeah, man, just no spiders.
I like the shit out of a grasshopper or an ant or something like that, but
ants. I just picture you sitting behind the house eating ants as a kid.
I think there was a video of Steve-O snorting ants.
I know there is. Oh, so yeah, and then we're gonna do soon to be world famous Brohio Jeopardy. So if you think you are a true fan, I had an entire Jeopardy game written.
I was gonna say, you're gonna tell them about it.
I had it all written out. I had it all ready to go. 2 rounds of it. Apparently, the website that I used to make it doesn't save automatically, and I came back the next day and the web page is blank. Both my Jeopardy games are missing. That's okay. I'll find that shit. You know how I do. Let's first take a moment to give a shout out to our new Patreon friends. Lots of fun names this week. First off, we got Aaron Osborne. Thank you, Aaron, for your Patreon pledge.
Jamie Dobbins. Thank you, Jamie.
Amanda Riddles. Amanda Riddles.
Cody B loves fat cock. Thank you very much, Mr. Cody B loving fat cock.
Speaking of fat cocks, if you got puffy nipples, you can turn this goddamn podcast off right now because I'm sick and tired of these fucking guys. I like when people write us like, my husband loves you, but he's got puffy nipples.
Tell him to stop listening.
We've got it to the point where these women don't even love their husbands anymore.
Someone said it's a Zoom call only for patrons. No, it's for anybody that wants to join.
Yeah, it'll be $10 to brohiopodcast@gmail.com on Venmo or PayPal. The links will go out Thursday evening or Friday afternoon.
Are we sold out the following week?
No.
Okay.
We have 2 tickets that have become available for the live show.
Okay, the live show and date.
I know those are going to go instantly, so I just haven't put them up yet.
Okay.
Small penis. Thanks for your Patreon pledge. Small penis spelled SMOLP. Penis. Small penis. I think that's a direct attack at you or I am not sure.
Both. Let's see here. Eric Swiatkowski.
Oh yeah.
Swiatkowski. There you go.
Tyler Stretch Nuts. What the fuck
I have that problem too, man.
What's going on this week, dude?
Bridget Towns. Thank you very much, Bridget.
I want to say that Bridget, if I'm thinking this is the same person that I think it is, she's been a real good friend of my wife's family for a very long time.
Okay.
I know her mother. I've never met her, but she's like, we told her mom about it, and her mom got her to listen, and she loves it. So
Cool.
Bridget the midget. Oh, that's the porn star. This is a different Bridget.
Okay.
Bridget Towns. She's a good friend of the family. So thanks for listening, Bridget.
Good deal.
John Urban. Thanks, John Urban. And the reason I talk so nicely about Bridget, it's nice anytime because that's the thing about starting a podcast. Your family doesn't want to fucking listen to you. So don't go to your family to try and get you to listen to your podcast. But
yeah,
anytime your friends or family listen, that's pretty cool.
It is very cool. It's nice to have people come up that know you and they're like, hey, I still listen.
They're like, yeah, you're a fucking rock star, dude. I'm like, yeah, I know. I've been like that since I was a young boy. It is what it is, you know.
Let me see here. Is it my turn?
Yeah, last one.
Jacob Balls of Steel. Thank you very much. Balls of Steel.
Balls of Steel. Rob came up with the funny article this week. So
it's the first time in 3 years.
First time in 3 years.
4 years now? Almost 4 years.
Yeah, almost. It's from Vice.com. It says, your cock is mine now. Hacker, sorry, not a hawker. that's a hawker. Hacker locks internet connected chastity cage and demands ransom.
Perfect.
A hacker took control of people's internet connected chastity cages and demanded a ransom to be paid in Bitcoin to unlock it.
Man.
Quote, your cock is mine now, the hacker told one of the victims, according to a screenshot of the conversation obtained by a security researcher that goes by the name Smelly. I got my guy Smelly on the case, and is the founder of VX Underground, a website that collects malware samples. In October of last year, security researchers found out that the manufacturer of an Internet of Things chastity cage, a sex toy that users put around their penis to prevent erections, that is used in the BDSM community. I do not know what BDSM stands for, but I know it is where you hang people from the ceiling and you shove things in their butt, and it can be unlocked remotely. It had left an API exposed, giving malicious hackers a chance to take control of the devices. That's exactly what happened. According to a security researcher who obtained screenshots of conversations between the hacker and several victims, and according to victims interviewed by a Motherboard, a victim who asked to be identified only as Robert, how fitting, said that he received a message from a hacker demanding a payment of 0.02 Bitcoin, or around $750 today.
Oh, God.
To unlock the device. He realized his cage was definitely locked. You lock these things to your wiener? What the fuck? And he could not gain access to it. Fortunately, I didn't have this locked on myself while this happened, Robert said in an online chat. And the security researcher says, do you know of any similar vulnerabilities? Yada, yada. I wasn't the owner of the cage anymore, so I didn't have full control of the cage at any given moment. Another victim who goes by the name RJ told Motherboard in an online chat. RJ said he got a message from the hacker who said they had control of the cage and wanted a payment to unlock it. These hacks showed once again that just because you can connect something to the internet doesn't mean you have to, especially if then. So this, in short here, a chastity belt.
Mm-hmm. A cock cage, pretty much.
What is a cock cage?
So it is this little, it's literally exactly what it sounds like. It looks like a little bird cage that you put around your dick. It's real small, maybe is maybe this big, and it keeps you from getting a boner.
What happens if you get a boner?
You can't. It's really, I mean, unless you have a micro penis.
I got it.
It's impossible for it to grow in it. It'll just, because it's made of metal.
Oh my God.
So it's like a thimble. Imagine putting a thimble on your dick.
And you give control.
I can fit my dick in a thimble.
I can fit 6 of my dicks in a thimble.
Yeah.
And you give control to, in these BDSM communities, you give someone remote connectivity to lock and unlock the cock cage.
Yeah.
And next time my wife tries to pressure me into doing stuff that I don't want to do, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm wearing a cock cage tonight, and I can't.
There you go.
I
That's
don't
what it
know.
looks like.
Oh my god.
Yeah, not fun.
Oh,
See what I mean? You literally can't. You literally can't get a boner with it. It doesn't allow you to get a boner.
Why would you fucking wear one of those?
Oh my god! The fuck?
That one's got teeth.
That one's angry.
That one's gnarly.
Nah, no, thank you.
Ain't nobody got time for that motherfucker.
Oh my god! What the fuck? Poor guy.
That dude doesn't even. It's got his wiener pushed up inside of him. That is terrifying.
Turned his Audi to an innie. Oh my god!
Our buddy Sam Farrell sent us a TikTok is all the rage right now. Rob and I don't dabble very much on TikTok at all, but he sent me this kid's TikTok page. He looks to be about 11, but he's got
my son.
It looks like he could
Please.
be your son. He's got 2.2 million likes
Holy
on
shit.
TikTok. His channel is called Fart Hub Live. And I've done some serious scientific research.
Good for him.
This kid farts, okay, but he can suck the air up in his ass
Hell yeah.
and he blows it out like a queef, like
Nice.
a man queef.
Yeah.
And I've done some scientific research. I've blown up these videos, and you can see the air exiting his ass, like his fucking blows his sweatpants off his little fucking 11-year-old butt.
He's like an airbender.
Yes, he is precisely an airbender, and he really has some gnarly farts.
Sweet.
So
Sam, where are you going?
He's walking farts. Dude, that is the filthiest room.
oh, dude, this house looks like a crack
Sam,
crack
where you-
house.
Oh, that's a tool.
That was a turd. You heard he say that was a turd. No, this kid is a God love his little soul. He's just he's on TikTok here. This one's got the most views.
I can't keep this Lucifer in the cage much longer. Stay in there, little buddy. Hang in there.
Oh my god. No wonder why he called it Lucifer.
Listen,
I can't keep
I'm gonna
this
replay it, but watch this. Watch the.
Lucifer in the cage much longer.
You see the pants blow off his butt.
Stay in there, little buddy. Hang in there.
You see
Holy fuck, his pants ripple. There's a sonic boom coming out of his
like a
ass.
fucking hurricane,
I can't keep this Lucifer in the cage much
and he
longer.
just out ripping ass, dude.
Stay in
Man,
there,
that's
little
crazy.
buddy. Hang in there.
Could you
It
imagine?
sounds like a whoopee cushion.
Could you imagine living with that hell inside your pants?
Oh my god.
Oh, he's the queefing, and I don't even think he realizes his talent. This is the scariest
That's a
part.
gift.
It truly is. Okay,
Man, good for him.
enough of Fart Hub Live. As much as I watched that for about 3 hours.
Oh man.
As always, thanks Sam. He always sends us wild stuff. Okay, so a lot of things we cover. Well, first off, I want to put a break in because we always put dynamic ads right here.
Okay.
Here's a quick message from maybe some of our sponsors. Okay, I'm gonna mark that. Just kidding.
Or not.
Okay, I marked it.
Okay. Somewhere around there.
One of our things we like to do. I know a couple other podcasts to cover this. I saw Sofa King had an episode on this, which many people listen to both of us.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys didn't hear this there. And if you did, I think we got some stuff that we found some pretty cool stuff to go along with it.
Even if you have the same story shared amongst podcasts, everybody's going to do
Oh,
their
yeah.
their own thing differently. So
But we like to cover things that people have never covered before, whether it be nightmare death syndrome. We did that. No one had really covered that before. But sometimes we cover things that aren't necessarily true, like the Russian sleep experiment. The 20 and back space program was a little far-fetched. While it could be real, a lot of people believe that guy was full of shit. But that's not for you or I to decide. I
Not
thought
at
Tony
all.
Rodriguez was a pretty solid ass dude.
Yeah.
Really cool. He and I are still friends on Facebook. He is a adamant Trump supporter. He's very upset about the happenings of last week, which if some of you go back to the end of the Yellowstone Park episode,
Okay.
listen to what I say at the end. I'm like, hey, Rob Dog, January 6th, they're going to tear this motherfucker down. And I told you that in that episode. I
you did.
called that shit.
Yep.
So. But this episode, it very much ties into the recent occurrences, I guess, recent realizations of Pizzagate, Pedogate, Jeff Epstein. It ties in there, unfortunately. The thing about the whole Jeff Epstein, Pizzagate stuff is it's all so conspiracy driven,
Very true.
and you can't really put your thumb on it, or whether it's what's real, what's not real.
Mm-hmm.
But this story, the Finders, just last year, the FBI released from their vault 300 documents pertaining to the Finders cult. So this is a real cult. It's been documented by the CIA. It's been documented by the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. It's been documented by the FBI, U.S. Customs. It's been documented by, let's see, the Child Protective Services in Florida, the Florida Tallahassee Police Department. Lots of accessible documents, police reports, government reports covering this shit right here. So this is not made up stuff. 95% of my research on this one was directly from the police reports. So I wasn't, normally I'll go to a website. I'm like, okay, I'll take that. That looks good. That looks good.
Wikipedia /
Yeah, exactly.
So-and-so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But not this one. Official government documents, reports. I'm reading chicken scratch from the 1980s. Police officers handwriting,
Yeah.
police reports and shit.
Oh yeah.
And I felt like a real researcher for a little bit, and as fat and stinky as I am on any given day,
That means our next episode's destined to be an audio only.
It's gonna be a stinker. Oh,
We just got a bunch of sound clips together, and we're gonna react to them.
Oh, you guys like scary sounds?
It's just that kid farting for
Yeah.
hours.
This is Fart Up Live. This is an 11-year-old getting his fucking ass tore out of the frame. And by the way, my mom and dad listened to the podcast
Mhm.
about where I was really fat. I used to steal lunch money out
Yeah.
of my little brother's pocket,
Yeah.
and they asked him about it. And he said it was not true. And I said, motherfucker, that's fine. Because I got you. I took you out. I got what you got gotten. And he didn't remember it. But I remember getting money out of his pocket, and it was sticky. And I told my mom that. I told my
Of
mom
all
that.
things, that's sticky.
I said, Mom, I remember reaching in his pocket, and it was sticky. And she's like, I don't want to know anymore. Son. She doesn't like talking to me about that stuff.
I heard you talk about fucking dad on the podcast.
My dad calls me, I never fingered you. Yeah, you did, Dad. I never fingered you. So imagine, put yourself in the shoes of this person reporting the crime. You're off the beaten path that maybe looking for some wilderness, looking for a nice spot to hike, a nice hidden pond, and you stumble upon a pack of what looks like wild children
Okay.
behaving like they're partaking in some Lord of the Flies shit. They look,
Okay.
they're wearing nasty, ratty clothes. But actually, instead of the kids governing themselves, there's two guys in suits standing there watching these kids frolic around in the mud and the grass while they're wearing nothing but t-shirts. It gets a little weirder. So you have all these kids just unkept and nasty, completely uncared for, but they're being overseen by two men in suits who just got all of the kids out of a van.
Mhm.
And prior to that, you spoke. This is from the actual police report and the witnesses that day. That day, the woman that called the police that filed the said, get down here to the park. There's some weird shit going on. One of the guys in the suits came up to her and said, hey, we're looking for a park where we can take these kids that has a pond or some water, because what they wanted to do is they wanted to give the kids a bath or have them take a shower.
Okay.
So they were looking for a park.
For the dirtiest water they could find.
They want to make them dirtier.
Right.
They wanted to find a park or some place with a public pond where they could take these kids and clean these motherfuckers off. And both the guys in suits, the caller said, looked like they were on drugs. It's just completely out of their mind on drugs. So that, I guess, she had an inkling to call the police department at this point. Before the police got there, another van rolls by with two men in it with a back full of fucking kids as well. And then that van left. But the two guys that were like doped out of their minds, they stayed behind. But that's exactly what the Tallahassee Police Department were summoned to on February 4th of 1987. So we're coming up on this is about 34 years ago. Oh, did you hear that?
I did hear that.
Wow, that was my throat. I got a lot of stuff going on right now. I just had dinner, some spinach and chicken, so it wasn't anything nasty. The cat was dragging her ass across your microphone earlier.
It's okay. I'm used to it.
But they had no idea, the police didn't, the can of worms that they were going to open this day when the investigation started. A call was placed to the local police department around 4:50 p.m. The woman said the two men were on drugs. They were looking for water. They wanted to bathe these children. There was a report of two white males wearing suits, semi-supervising 6 unkept children. When the officers arrived to Myers Park in Tallahassee, they observed a blue Dodge van with the license plate X-Ray Henry Wilma 557 parked on the playground. The officers immediately observed that the children in question were indeed unkept, like the caller said. There were 4 boys and 2 girls completely covered in dirt, wearing dingy clothing, and all appeared to be covered in bug bites and had scratches all over their legs.
Poor things.
Yes. The 2 men in suits were named Douglas Edward Ammerman. He was 27 years old at the time. And James Michael Holwell, 23. You will hear a lot more from James Michael Holwell in this episode.
Cool.
Police began to press the men about the condition of the children and exactly where were they headed. Ammerman advised that they were on their way to Mexico with the children, where it was their intention to start a school for the exceptionally bright and gifted. Let's keep in mind, and I haven't brought this to head yet, that the children aged in range from 2 to 6 years old. You really don't have the idea of how brilliant a child is going to be at that age, especially in the conditions that they are in. They're covered in mud, dirt, they're nasty from head to toe, they're unclean, it's a really weird, and to make
they still shit themselves that high.
And to make it even weirder, the guys taking care of them are wearing suits like they're fucking
ballers,
like a dueling pianos or some shit like that. I don't. In his words, they were dressed like elevator men.
Okay.
That to the James Michael Holwell. That's what he said.
Okay.
It was at this point. I'm sorry. The police began to press on the men about the whereabouts of all of the children's parents. The police said, "Where are the fucking parents for all these goddamn kids at?" I think what Michael Holwell thinks he might have been the father of one of the children. One of the other kids thought Holwell was his dad, but it was not his dad. It was all part of this cult that they were in called the Finders Cult. We'll elaborate a little bit more on that in just a little bit. The men advised that the parents were in Washington, D.C. It's about to get a lot fucking weirder.
Good.
It was at this point the officers advised the men that they are being placed under arrest for child abuse and child endangerment, I believe.
Good.
At this moment, Michael Holwell just completely fainted at the time. And Ammerman was the one that was kind of doing all the talking. Like, they're in Washington, D.C. We're going to Mexico. We have all these brilliant children. In his pockets, he had 2 sets of Miranda rights. He said one of the Miranda rights said, I said, I don't have any information. I want an attorney, yada, 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 yada.
Mm-hmm.
The other set of Miranda rights said, I have information. So he had 2 different sets of pre-prepared statements. One said, I'm withholding information. And the other one said, I am not withholding information.
Okay.
So he's got all these weird kids with him.
So he's sizing up.
He was prepared for something to happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. One weird thing to note, witnesses confirmed, like I said, that there was another vehicle there earlier before the police arrived. They had 2 men driving and there were children in the back seat that made some type of contact with these guys before they left the park. The police transported the men and the children to the local police station, the Tallahassee Police Department, and impounded the van. The children's names were as followed: Max Livingston, he was 6 years old. I don't see. Okay, yeah, Max Livingston, he was 6 years old. Benjamin Franklin, 4 years old.
Damn.
John Paul Pope, 2 years
the
old.
hell?
Honey Bee, she was 3. BB, she was 2.
BB Bluffington.
And Mary Erico Houlihan, she was 6 years old.
They all got these regal names, and then you have Mary Houlihan.
BB.
BB.
Now,
BB.
Mary was 6 years old. So think about what a child is like at the age of 6.
Mm-hmm.
How old's your youngest?
6.
Okay. There's a lot of things that she's aware of that you wouldn't expect a 6-year-old to be aware of.
True.
But then also there's a lot of things that she has no fucking idea about that. So it gets further in the story. These kids have no idea about modern technologies at the time. They're fascinated by fucking staplers, by light switches. They're just nothing. All of this stuff is completely new and fresh to these children. They've never experienced it before.
He's 7. Never mind. I lied, but still,
Okay.
His birthday just happened, but still, it's all the same.
The children were all exceptionally hungry, the police stated, and no one was wearing underwear. A few of the children were just shitting and pissing all over the floor at the police station. They didn't use bathrooms. There was even one child, 1 or 2 of them, that asked to go outside specifically for the reason to piss and shit on the floor outside, because that's what these kids were used to.
They were,
just going on the floor or going outside on the ground. So they were not toilet trained children, much like you and I are fucking toilet trained.
Right.
The officers noted that the children had not bathed in quite a long time, and during the interview process, the older children, which was Max and Mary, Max was kind of fucking stupid, but Mary, she was able to help piece a lot of things together. During the interview process, Mary specifically advised they had to do things. They had to do good deeds in order to earn food. The younger children were practically nonverbal. Mary said they were given oranges, bananas, carrots, and raw potatoes.
Oh, God.
That was really what they lived off of. So, in the, let's see, I don't think, in some part in my, I'm not going to get to it yet.
Okay.
I'm not going to crack that open yet, but that's what these kids were used. That's all they knew to eat was raw potatoes, fruits and vegetables. And that's kind of what they lived off of.
Raw potatoes. Fuck that.
That's nasty.
That's bad.
That's nasty.
Yeah.
You know, one time when I was a kid, I took a raw potato and I put it in my ass.
Sure.
It really gives it a good pickled flavor if you do it right.
Right.
You got to sit on it for a long time. You got to, like that queefer at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, you got to open it up and get in there.
Got to really queef on it hard. Not a soft queef like you and I can do. Like, not like that. You got to do a really hard, nasty queef on it, like a hard fart.
Ugh.
I call it hard farting when I do it in front of my kids. When I fart really, I'm like, that was a hard fart.
I call them cheek clappers.
Cheek clappers. Well, and I've talked about this before. My wife hates the most is when I'll fart like a really. I got 3 daughters, and she doesn't like me being a nasty in front of them, but I'll fart, and they'll be like, "Ew." And I said, if your boyfriends don't fart like that when you get older, don't bring them into this goddamn house. Yeah, you gotta set the tone right now. See, Mary also said that the fainting man was her dad, which the fainting
that pussy on the ground, that's my dad.
That motherfucker over there, that's my dad. He's a fucking bitch ass motherfucker. I think that there's an interview I'm going to start to play throughout this episode. The interview is Michael Holwell, who is Mary's father, is what she thinks. I think he actually was her father. But the fainting man could not confirm that Mary was his daughter because he was in a trance-like state. He remained in like a trance-like state, like he was under some kind of fucking psychotropic drugs or just something was fucking wrong with him. The goddamn screw came loose. He took the COVID vaccine. He had to act like he had a lot of stuff wrong with him, you know?
Yeah.
The men were completely uncooperative and they were taken to Leon County Jail. One of the men produced a business card with multiple names on it and kind of and this is the part I talked about where he had like a pre-written speech about, I have information I'm withholding, and on the other side of the business card says I'm not withholding any information. Mary, like I said, she was able to answer a lot of questions. And when I do play this interview, I want you to keep in mind that this guy in this interview is so fucking goddamn creepy. And he was the one that was
he the talker or the fanner?
He was the fainter, which
Okay.
makes it strange where he actually that he actually did this interview, but it was so long after the fact. I gotta get this thing
Everyone,
all-
this is Derek Rose.
Sorry, I gotta 1620. It's so weird that this interview was, I couldn't find this interview anywhere. It was really hard to find. It was removed from YouTube. Luckily, I found it at archive.org. This guy named Fred just says, "Hey guys, I was talking to one of my buddies, and I found out that my buddy was in a cult called the Finders back in the day." So he sits down and he just has a conversation with Michael Hallwell,
Mm-hmm.
who was formerly in the Finders, this cult that we're talking about right now. And this Michael Hallwell is completely transparent about everything. Kind of lays out everything that he's doing, or everything that they did. I'm sorry. And he's just so fucking creepy. And this is first part I'm going to play is him explaining where the Finders actually came from.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, most of the mothers took their kids and left and actually came to the Bay Area and
Wow.
settled in Albany.
Oh, really?
They
Wow.
created a group. 3 of the mothers and their kids created a group house in Albany.
Wow, how cool.
And, yeah, and so most of the kids went to Albany High School and kind of became normal.
Right.
And commune
Interesting.
upbringing and a normal suburban life in Albany,
Right,
California later.
And where did the name Finders come from? Do you know?
That was one of our original business cards. It said, "Finders, we find ... persons, places, things, ideas, organizations."
Mm.
Like we're researchers.
Mhm.
This is before the internet, or
Right,
it was the
right.
and so we were good at like looking things up with some of the early databases
Uh-huh.
and finding things and doing networking and connecting people. That was like one of our shticks.
Mm-hmm.
One of the apartments was called the Problem Solving Center, and that was advertised. Come into the Problem Solving Center, we'll help you solve your problems.
Cool.
Find what you're looking for, whether it's housing or work or relationship or a different life. And people would come through, and if we liked them, we might invite them to live with us and say, well,
If that doesn't sound like a goddamn fucking cult,
Definitely does.
that is definitely a fucking cult. That's this guy explaining what the Finders are from the outside, I guess. Mary, the 6-year-old, she saw the paperwork that the officers were preparing, and she saw that the address connected to the license plate was connected to the Finders warehouse in Washington, D.C. So after a little more digging, Mary was confused about what her actual last name was, and she had no idea the last names of the other children. After a little bit of digging, the police found out that there indeed was a warehouse in Washington, D.C. that was owned by the Finders. There was also a duplex not far away from the warehouse as well. So some of the Finders lived in this duplex, and then there was a warehouse set up for various weird deals. And I know what you're thinking already. You're like, you're already probably getting the vibe like this is hearsay, but there's all of these documents. There's all of these police reports. There's search warrants that I haven't got into yet. There's all of these things that back up exactly it was what we're saying it was. She told the police that they were living in various places. They were going to different campgrounds, and they lived in vans and tents. I don't know why I don't have it in my research very much, but there was also a farm in, I guess, not urban, but I guess it was in Virginia, and it was kind of out in the woods. It was far away from Washington, D.C. But they had a farm where a lot of these Finders would stay, and that's the name of the people in the cult were the Finders. So there's the farm in Virginia, the duplex in Washington, D.C., and the warehouse in Washington, D.C. It's said that the warehouse and the duplex in Washington, D.C. was used for ambassadors, famous government officials from other governments that are passing through Washington D.C. and you're using these children as like sex slaves for these people that were coming through, these government officials that were passing through. So when they would come through Washington D.C., they would send them to the finder's warehouse and the finder's duplex where they could do whatever with these children.
They'd get fucked.
The duplex and the warehouse was in a really, really bad part of town, just a spot where there was
Surprising.
it wasn't in the government part of town.
Yeah.
But people in this area would oftentimes say that nice vehicles would come through and they would roll the window down and be like, where's the Chinese embassy? They would always be in that specific area right around the finder's warehouse and the finder's duplex. And they would ask people like, the Chinese embassy's around here somewhere. And these people that lived around, they're like, we have no fucking idea what you're talking about. In all actuality, it was a secret
word.
location for these kids. There was children and there was a worldwide sex trade going on with this finders organization. But it was kind of the code word, it was the Chinese embassy, and people would come through looking for it, and it wasn't actually there. It was kind of disguised or whatever. The children seemed very confused by modern technology, electricity, hot water, staplers. They couldn't quite wrap their minds around that shit. The children also told police that they don't see their mothers and that they're being weaned from their mothers. And what do you mean by they were being weaned from their mothers? Exactly what it means. These children were being taken away from their mothers. So in this situation, you have these men in suits in this park with these nasty children. And these children are under the belief, there's children in the group that know that they're simply taking the younger children through a weaning process where they're taken away from their mothers. Well, fortunately, in this interview, this Fred guy, I think his name is Fred, he directly asked Michael Hallwell about what it meant when he said the children said that they were being weaned. Not wienered, but weaned. These kids are being weaned.
They're being wienered.
They were being wienered as well, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
And he answers the question here.
All the men together would play the father role collectively.
Right. And what was the name of the guy who ran it?
Marion Petty, Pettie.
Marion.
Marion,
And was he
Marion
also playing
Marion.
around sexually?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He now, right. See, there was a bit of a double standard because the women would initiate with all the other men, but Petty could initiate.
Uh-huh.
He could suggest, hey, how about you?
This is a little bit cultish, right? And you said it was, you even think it was a cult.
That's where it was edgy. Yeah, he had special standards for himself that didn't apply to everyone else.
Okay.
Yes. He would call a game for us, but he would then do whatever he wanted to do.
Wow.
And all the women were I believe, physically attracted to him, so it wasn't a problem.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he would always have someone sleeping with him when he wanted to.
Uh-huh. Did that feel unfair?
No, it felt like it was an appropriate perk for his position.
Right. Because he was very charismatic, it sounds like.
He was. He would laugh a lot. He was into jokes and pokes and nonsense. And sometimes he would make these wise
Jokes and
pronouncements.
pokes.
Other times he would just crack jokes and have us all singing. He had us all sing songs.
Cool.
We would study Christian
Cool.
songs and get like a Pentecostal hymnal and sing.
I don't know what's wrong with my timing here, but from where I recorded these are completely
Out of order.
they're not out of order. Just the time
Just
is
timestamps wrong.
Yeah, the timestamps are
Good
all wrong
songs.
on here.
But-
Even though we're not Christian, but we just like to sing.
Wow.
and people would make up songs.
Uh-huh.
One of the members was a guy named Toby. His real name was R. Gardner Terrell.
How are the kids raised?
Well, the idea was to raise the kids kind of in a wild way and let them with minimal intervention.
Mm-hmm.
Patty read a lot of books about alternative education, like Montessori and Waldorf and things.
Or
like
now
that.
they call it unschooling. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes, that was one of the ideas is not to like teach them didactically, but let them learn more experientially.
Mm-hmm.
Put them in interesting environments. One of the ideas was to let nature teach the children.
Mm-hmm.
So the children grew up mostly on the country property in Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and I was one of their primary caregivers.
Ah, okay.
Myself and Danny and Stan and Bob mostly would be.
And that's what he's saying is he and the other guy that he was with were the primary caretakers of all these fucking kids, which is so weird that these two guys would be the primary caretakers. Is this weird or is this?
Yeah, it is weird.
the
And-
ones primarily
like it.
raising the children once they were weaned off their mothers.
More so than the mothers.
Well, the mothers would the idea was the mothers would raise them for the first 2-3 years
Uh-huh,
mostly,
uh-huh.
and as they were weaned off the mother, then they would spend more time with the men.
Wow, interesting.
And that became kind of an issue of contention because some of the children didn't want to spend so much time away from their mothers
Right.
naturally.
Sure. Right.
There's no 2 or 3-year-old child in the history of ever that willingly wants to be separated from
No.
its mother.
Yeah, not at all. Not at
They
all.
weren't ready to join the commune at the age of 3 or something.
Right.
Like they want mommy.
Right.
So Petty's idea to wean them off their mother was very controversial, and, I think it angered some of the mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the weanings in particular was traumatic, and the poor girl cried, and the men could not console her, and
Wow.
she wanted her mother. So when the children became of that age, around 2, 3, 4, it created a schism in the community.
Oh, really?
The
Wow.
mothers
So the belief is that we'll get to it later, but they want us to believe that the finders weren't doing anything wrong or improper to these kids. But here you have this guy who went to jail. It was found that this is the guy talking is the guy that was fainting and faking a seizure and going into these trance-like states that day. Here he is trying to explain the process and why it was okay for these children to be weaned from their mothers. And what, even in a cult like setting, why would a child at the age of 2 or 3 years old, it's not even barely old enough to speak, be taken away from their mothers in a weaning process? And Mary said that this trip that they were on right here was part of a weaning process. Now, the things that they found inside the van tells a story of what might have actually been going on here. When interviewed, Mary said, and we'll get to what was inside the van in just a second, but Mary said that at wherever they lived at, they were not allowed inside the home, that all the children slept outside in tents. On the farm, the police report shows that there were many cages on the property, and it looked like the children had been kept in cages.
Oh man.
The children, they did as the parents said, and much like you, Mary and Petty, like we just heard about in the interview, the children answered to the parents, and the parents answered to a man simply known as the Game Caller, who was Marion Petty. He was the leader of the cult, much like a Jim Jones. He was the leader of the Finders cult. The children were taught that the floor was their bathroom, as one of the children shit and pissed all over the floor at the police station. Like I said, one of the 2-year-old children consumed 8 bananas and an orange at the police station.
Jeez.
That's how hungry he was.
Poor thing.
Mary said that the other man, not the fainting man, but the other man his name was Kenny Rogers. He was the fucking gambler. So I think it was Danny Ammerman. She didn't even know his name. She just knew the fainting man was her dad, and the other guy was fucking Kenny Rogers. They also make several references to a man named Ron or Ronald. At the time, the president of the United States was Ronald Reagan. The children all knew, they said, everything belongs to Ronald. That's what they all, during their interviews with Child Protective Services and with the police department, they would say, everything belongs to Ronald. And then oftentimes, pictures of the finders, there would be a man that would do interviews in a Ronald Reagan mask. So I don't know if Ronald was the guy at the finders at their cult headquarters that wore the Ronald Reagan mask, or if Ronald was simply the president of the United States of America,
Or McDonald.
or Ronald McDonald.
That'll put a spin on it there for you.
That's how about that? Mary also referenced that the 2 men she was with used a computer inside the van to communicate back and forth with the quote Game Caller. Now, what was inside the van, you ask? Police inspected the blue van that smelled utterly horrendous, and they found there was a mattress inside that was covered in piss and shit, and you could tell everyone in the van had been sleeping on this mattress. Police inspected the blue van that smelled utterly horrendous, and they found knives, a Chinese to English dictionary, a U.S. passport, a pack of Trojan condoms, child pornography photos, 20 floppy disks, a TRS-80 computer, and telephone lines for computer transmissions and other technology that was rather advanced for the time period. So at this time, these men are traveling around the country in this van with 6 children. They have condoms, they have knives, they have a Chinese to English dictionary, a U.S. passport, a computer, floppy disks, and all of the the telephone technology for computer transmissions. At the time, personal home computers were completely unheard of.
Oh, yeah, you didn't have 'em.
In 1987.
Mhm.
People didn't have computers, let alone computers that hooked up the internet. In this van, these men had all the things to hook up their computer and make telephone transmissions with the computer. Who they were corresponding back and forth with, I have no fucking idea. But even
You had to had a lot of money put into that situation in order for that to work.
you think about that technology, you're right, very expensive. But these guys are living in the back of a blue fucking van
Mhm.
in the middle of nowhere, wearing suits, and it just
They're
gives
getting
you,
bread from somewhere.
it's got this nasty vibe to it, man.
Yeah.
And Mary knew that the men communicated back and forth with the game caller, and the game caller was a man named Marion Petty. When the police started to question Mary about her being sexually abused and possibly receiving bad touches, she immediately shut down at that point, and she wanted to end the interview, and she became exceptionally fidgety. They also, while interviewing Mary, she spoke about, while being at the home, whether she was at the warehouse in DC or she was at the house in Virginia, I'm not 100% certain, but she said that she would oftentimes play games with the men. One of the games was she would have to undress the men and put their clothes on and then go through their pockets. What the fuck that means, I have no idea. But she said that she would have to undress the men, put their clothes on, and go through their pockets. And not to make a joke out of something so fucking nasty, but
Sure.
I was talking to my buddy about all this stuff,
Uh-huh.
and he talked to me about how there was like this big thing in Europe.
Yeah.
I can't remember what country it was, but these guys, this crime syndicate, I don't know, this mafia or this gang or whatever, they hired a bunch of midgets, and they'd stuff these midgets in fucking suitcases.
Okay.
And they would get on the public transport system down in whatever European country they're at, and they would take these suitcases full of midgets, and they would anytime they got on these buses, you'd have to take your suitcase and you'd have to throw it below the bus. So they'd have these suitcases full of midgets, and they'd throw their suitcases full of midgets under the bus, and then they'd go for the bus ride. And while the bus was driving to its location, these midgets would get out of the suitcases and they'd run around to everybody's luggage and steal all the expensive stuff, get all the expensive
That's
stuff out of the
hilarious.
suitcases,
Yeah.
and then they would jump back in their suitcase and they'd zip themselves back up.
That's actually really funny.
That's such a good idea.
That's genius.
So never underestimate the power of a midget in a fucking suitcase. Like, hey man, we're going on this run. You got any firearms? You got grenades? You're like, no, I got a fucking suitcase full of midgets. That's all I need. That's in the next John Wick. That's what he's gonna use, is just suitcases full of midgets. Just
Man, that's a really good plan.
it is, and it worked. And it begs the question: do midgets have regular sized wieners or small sized midget wieners? If you're a midget and you listen to the show, send us an email, brohiopodcast@gmail.com. Let us know if you got a regular midget wiener or if you have a very large human wiener.
You use them word though, so they're not gonna like that.
M word. Midgets. All right. Now, back to what Mary was saying. She said one of the games she would have to undress the men, go through their pockets. And then one other game they would play at Christmas time is the women would come downstairs completely naked, and the men would get to pick the women that they wanted. And
That seems healthy.
She was very vague about these games that they played, using the evidence of the pictures inside the van, because they found pictures inside the van of child pornography, of children in sexual poses, children naked, chained up, all kinds of compromising pictures of naked, sexually abused, sexually assaulted children. This is the fucking shit right now that will put you in. You can go to prison for life for two things: for killing someone and for inflicting sexual abuse upon a child. That's how it is in Ohio.
Good.
For life sentence, you can get a life sentence for sexually abusing a child.
Fuck them.
They find
Not the kids. Don't fuck the kids. Fuck the people
No,
that
that's
fuck
why
the
that's
kids.
how you get there by fucking
Yeah.
the kids. Don't fuck the kids.
Yeah, no.
Go find a
No kid deserves that.
you find your swamp donkey. Don't fuck a dog. I don't think it's illegal to fuck a dog in some states.
Yeah, that's true. Bestiality is not illegal in some states.
It's illegal in Ohio now. I found that out the
Yeah.
hard way by reading the newspaper. I don't
Yeah.
like to read. That's why it was the hard way.
I
Not
think-
because I was physically fucking.
I think middle of the country. I think all it doesn't matter.
Yeah, anything below like Ohio, you can do whatever you want to an
Yeah.
animal.
I don't think there's anything. I don't even think there's any females in like Missouri and Kansas and stuff. So they got to fuck sheep if they can.
Kentucky, you could marry a cat, whatever you need
Yeah,
to do.
I'm pretty sure I saw a guy married to a bird one time whenever I was there, like a parakeet.
Whenever
Jerry
So-
Pauly's married to his ferret too.
he
so
is, he loves
it's
them
his second
ferrets, man.
his second wife.
My nose is itching so bad, and I have never done cocaine in my life. So they have these vans completely filled full of child pornography. Someone's gonna go to prison, right? Fuck me in the ass prison. We'll find the fuck out.
Hell
So
yeah.
using the evidence of the pictures in the van, the Tallahassee Police Department enlisted the help of the Federal Bureau of Investigations. They also made contact with the Washington, D.C. Metro Police Department and made them aware of the warehouse. Come to find out, Washington, D.C. Metro Police Department had been working an investigation on the finders for nearly a year at this point. At the warehouse, there was reports of people coming through for weird reasons. They bought the warehouse next door and drilled a hole and were watching what they were doing at the warehouse through the hole in the wall.
It's like a
They
glory hole.
I don't have an answer of what exactly the Washington Police Department, Metro Police Department, was waiting for. At this point, they hadn't really executed any search warrants or done their fucking job. Imagine that. There's so many unturned stones here that I couldn't make sense of, and this is one of them. Why the Washington D.C. Metro PD had known about this for a year and
Mhm.
not acted on it. Maybe not necessarily the child pornography stuff, but all of the other things.
Right.
They also enlisted the help of U.S. Customs due to the expressed intention of crossing the international border into Mexico in the way the children were found. So
Mhm.
as soon as the men said, "Well, we're going to Mexico with this children," well, that immediately flagged U.S. Customs, where they said it made the Tallahassee Police Department flag U.S. Customs and say, "Hey, this could be a case of child abduction," because what's one of the first things you're going to do if you do abduct a child? You're either going to try and go to Mexico or get out of the country with the child, which is what it seemed like these guys were doing. They also enlisted the help of U.S. Customs due to Ramon Martinez from U.S. Customs was the officer that was put in charge of this investigation from U.S. Customs. He joined the Washington Metro Police Department and their lead detective. And like I said, they were already investigating anonymous reports of bloodletting satanic ritual. There was reports that these guys were doing, and this is right at the peak of the satanic panic in the 1980s. So everyone thought that all the rock and roll stars were speaking to the kids and trying to get them to do satanic shit. And this is a very weird time in America with the satanic panic.
It was really weird. Yeah.
And they that's what they thought this was all part of, was the satanic panic. And I want to say that I have a portion in here from the finders. Where did the children sexual sharing? How was there could fly? I thought it was weird. What happened in Tallahassee? So yes, he goes through what exactly happened in his opinion. 26, 25. What happened in Tallahassee? And I don't know if this is going to be right or not.
Sure.
So what happened in Tallahassee?
Hey.
Well, it was one of those utopian ideas that didn't work very well. Petty called a game. We're all in Washington, D.C. It's wintertime. It's January.
Mhm.
So it's getting cold. So he said, okay, have all the children and some of the men.
And I got to stop it right there, because he says that the game caller, part of these games where people would live on this farm in Virginia, and the game caller, Marion Petty, would tell these the people playing the game, he would say, just go across the country, drive to California right now with the kids, or drive to this place, drive to that place. But the thing is, this Marion Petty guy, he was a very high-ranking military official
Mm-hmm.
before he got out of the military and then did this finder shit. And this guy talks about it, how Marion Petty was a driver for some generals and knew all kinds of. Also, Marion Petty's wife was in the fucking CIA, dude. Confirmed. It's on paper. It's on record. No, maybe. This guy's wife was a CIA official. So much stuff to unpack here.
And drive across country, drive to Florida first, and then drive across country and along the southern part of the U.S. Have all the mothers fly out to San Francisco separately and set up a home and be ready, to get jobs and all that. And then at some point, the men and the children will meet up with the mothers, and we'll all have a nice time in California. But we never got to California, of course, because of course
It was just two of you?
No, there were actually the two of us who were arrested, plus a second van with 3 or 4 other men from the finders. So there were actually 2 vans traveling together. The other 3 or 4 men were in Tallahassee looking for work, while Danny and I were on a camping trip with the kids, because the idea was to have the kids be in nature. So we were in some kind of a state park outside of Tallahassee, and living kind of this kind of babysitting. Babysitting I believe there
6 kids you had, is what they said.
Yeah. There was Mary and Max and Ben and BB and Honeybee and Sean Paul. My son was the youngest. And there were 6. And so we were camping and eating simple foods, mostly fruits and vegetables and bread, basic stuff, and milk. We were camping out and for, I guess, maybe a week or so. And then it was time and we decided, well, let's go into town today, give the kids a little change. There might have been a sense of these 2 men are going to meet up in the park, the other van will meet, and then we'll switch places. And then the other men will go out to the woods with the kids, and these 2 guys will get a job, or there's
something going like that.
Some plan to meet in the city at this park. Well, that meeting never happened because when Danny and I were in the park, the kids were all running around and just being kids. And some neighbor of the park saw that and said, "This is weird," and they called the police.
Right.
So that's how it happened. But the kids had been camping, so they were dirty, and they had bug bites and scratches on their skin, and they looked messy. I admit that they didn't look like your typical clean, brand new.
And they're running all over, and it's just 2 men. And what they said is you guys were dressed up in suits.
That was the
Shitting
finder's
everywhere.
Outfit. The men almost always wore suits, like kind of like the suit that like an elevator guy would, operator would wear, like the blue blazer and the gray slacks and the tie.
So most of the time, even when you're not traveling and stuff, you be wearing that.
Yeah, the idea is to be fairly well dressed, not crazy, but be reasonably well dressed, have a nice appearance. The problem is that well dressed mode didn't fit that setting.
Fucking say.
You don't see a guy in a suit just chilling at the park.
He says that they were fucking camping.
Yeah.
No, you weren't.
No.
You had a fucking computer with a modem shit, and you had condoms and child pornography in the back of the van. You weren't fucking.
Especially
camping.
with the kids being so dirty, it's looking really strange. I could see where it looks strange.
The contrast was weird. The idea, Petty's idea, was to present ourselves as teachers. We're teachers, and we have a school on wheels. Basically, we're a
I don't buy it. I'm not.
Not at all.
How fucking just grimy does that guy sound? Just
Yeah.
so far.
Well, you can't. I mean, kids don't have the comprehension at 2 and 3 to really learn that much stuff. They're still trying to figure out what their favorite flavor of crayon is at that point. Especially if they're pissing and shitting all over the place. I mean, obviously these kids aren't geniuses like you say they are.
No, they're not.
And they're not treated right.
No kid ever prospered just eating raw fucking potatoes.
Right, exactly.
So Mary stated the address associated with the van's license plate went back to the warehouse. There was also a duplex as well, like I've stated. They made contact with the Washington, D.C. Metro Police Department, and they had the Metro Police Department call the phone number that was attached to the registration.
Mhm.
The first guy that they spoke to at the Washington Police Department was like, all right, we'll get back to you later on. He said, yeah, we called that number. It was pretty fucking weird. But Washington Metro Police Department didn't want to cooperate with, it didn't seem like they wanted to cooperate very well with the Tallahassee Police Department. Like they knew something was going on. Then they never received a call back that night from the Metro PD. The next day, they finally received, but the Metro PD said, we'll drive past the warehouse, we'll check it out. They finally received a call back the next day from a sergeant, and the sergeant said, yeah, I called the voicemail, the phone number, and I got the voicemail as well, and it was really fucking weird. That was the very next day. They said that they thought, the Metro Police Department said they thought that there's probably a lot more children involved than just the children that were found in Tallahassee.
Probably a
And just
safe bet.
in that reason alone, that they were going to execute various search warrants on the Finders cult.
Good.
So they promised to perform a search warrant later on that day. In the meantime, the two suspects in Tallahassee were interviewed, and they wouldn't talk. They just the one guy just kept laying on the fucking floor and convulsing and shit and pissing on himself.
Shitting his pants.
The guy that's doing the interview that we keep on hearing from.
It's like, sir, you're fine until we ask you questions. Then you go into a seizure every single time. Are you just avoiding the question?
So the jail.
You can just ask for a lawyer. So he just goes into convulsions.
Shake, rattle, and roll, motherfucker.
There you go.
So in this instance, as a jail official, former jail official, Rob, you would know that someone in this type of investigation, these guys would not be kept together.
Not at all. Keep separates.
This specific incident, these guys were housed together in isolation.
Yeah, that's definitely not the way it's supposed to be. The second they come in, if they're a part of the same arrest, they get placed on what's called a keep separate, and they're not even locked in the same cells. And if they go into housing units, they get housed in different sections of the jail.
These guys were kept together.
That's so stupid.
That's fishy, right?
That's so stupid. Yeah.
They were there was $100,000 cash bond placed on both of them, and at this point the next day it was confirmed by the investigators and CPS that at least the two oldest children had exams performed, and during the exams it was confirmed that they were both victims of sexual abuse, that there was trauma to their holes on their bodies.
Don't say that.
I'm not very poetic when it comes to talking about this shit. These kids had sexual abuse inflicted on their bodies, which we are going down the path of something very horrific, and it makes you think about the children specifically, of how badly these children were hurt and how they were programmed to think that what was happening to them was just a fucking game, that everything that was going on was completely normal. And that breaks my heart that these kids went through that. In the van, they also found what was called, I think a binder that said the Ballad of Ballads. It made reference to a house in the mountains, a location in Miami, a location in San Diego, and a location in China as well. And like I said, there was a dictionary, a Chinese to English dictionary that was found in the van as well. So it's some type of dealings, not Joe Biden dealings, but some type of dealings.
China
was going on here. I don't know exactly what it was. Finally, Metro DC Police Department called late and said their search warrant yielded computer goods, a hot tub, a sauna, a large television, library, books on mind control, a satellite dish on one of the roofs at the warehouse. And in the warehouse were many stage-like settings where it appeared they had been filming some type of miniature movie of some kind, just different weird filming sets all over this warehouse. Officer Martinez conducted a search of the finder's residence in Northwest Washington, which was this is the duplex that we're talking about, which was only 3 short miles away from the future Pizzagate epicenter, Comet Ping Pong.
Ping pong.
Oh, there we fucking go. And they found several individuals on the premises, but only one finders member. His name was Stuart Silverstone. He was located in a computer room filled with computers, printers, and finders documents that all proved very incriminating, confirming suspicions that the cult was in fact directly involved in global child sex trafficking and sexual abuse of children. Straight, and this is straight from Martinez's U.S. Customs report. It says, cursory examination of the documents revealed detailed instructions for obtaining children for unspecified purposes. The instructions included impregnating of female members of the community known as finders, purchasing children, trading, and kidnapping. There were telex messages from an MCI account numbers between a computer terminal believed to be located in the same room and others located across the country and other foreign locations. One such telex specifically ordered the purchase of 2 children in Hong Kong to be arranged through a contact at a Chinese embassy there. Fucking. And this is what Martinez found during his search of the residence. All of these things, like I said, go hand in hand with the child sex trade that we've talked about many a times on this show.
Yeah, it's rough.
And I think he talks about briefly what his reasoning was on what they thought. Let me find here. The ordering of children from China.
Of kids being ordered from China or Hong Kong or something like that. And that they found some documents saying something like.
And when he asks this question, listen to the pause.
You can tell already he's paused them.
He's paused. Yeah, listen to the pause here.
He's like, fuck.
About kids, and that they found some documents saying something like that.
During a trip to Japan, some of the members befriended a Japanese family and invited him to send his teenage son to be with us as a cultural exchange.
Okay.
So there were emails back and forth to Japan saying, would you like to have your son visit us? He did come visit. The visit did not go well because he hardly spoke a word of English, and he didn't like being in America, and so he went back to Japan.
Okay. I just found it's one telex. It says specifically ordered the purchase of 2 children in Hong Kong to be arranged through a contact in the Chinese embassy there.
Nonsense.
You don't know anything about that?
There were never any Chinese children there. The children are not purchased. Children were conceived in the group. Or you might have children visiting from our friends overseas. But no, there was no purchasing of children.
Children visiting from our friends overseas. Of a. And the thing is,
even that doesn't even make any sense.
This guy talks about it. This Marion Petty guy,
right?
Former government official, no longer in the military. I think I might actually have where he says, okay, where he explains who Marion Petty is. And it's kind of gives you a profound explanation here of this Marion Petty guy.
So he was really charismatic, and you said he was former military.
I believe he was U.S. Army. Yes, he was a chauffeur during the war, and he chauffeured various generals.
Wow.
Around during World War II. And so he had his ear on certain conversations that might have been classified. So that's where a lot of the conspiracies come from, because he was interested in like what was really going on. And because he drove generals around, he might have been privy to some information.
So he probably knew that the world is not what we think it is.
Yes, I'm sure he had some interesting conversations while he was quietly chauffeuring people around Washington.
Do you know what his rank was?
I believe he was a master sergeant when he retired. And his wife, Isabel Petty, worked for the CIA in Langley.
This is the guy in charge of the finders, Marion Petty, the game caller, who he's talking about right here, the game caller.
So that also adds to the conspiracy theories.
Right.
So they say that, I don't know this, that apparently Petty could ask her to like check on things or look things up, or maybe, bring him documents if he wanted to know something. So he might have had access to some classified materials at times.
When they performed the search warrant, that was like a day or two later, before the police reports were even made public, the room at the warehouse with all the computers in it, when they raided it in that room, they already had all the files from the police department. They had all the files from the arrests from both of these fucking Neanderthals. And all that stuff was not available yet. But the Finders Warehouse, they had all of that shit in that secret computer room. They had all that shit already, which was, at the time, this is nearly 35 years ago. The fact that they could have that information so quickly tells you that they had someone on the inside,
Definitely.
or they had someone that got them this information that was within the investigation. And like I said before, the Washington, D.C. Metro Police Department was very uncooperative about what was to be done with all of this shit. Also, there was, in the secret computer room, there was documents expressing an acute interest in bank secrecy situations. There were also documents about high-tech transfers to the United Kingdom, numerous properties under the control of the Finders, a keen interest in terrorism, explosives, and the evasion of law enforcement. They also found confidential arrest records pertaining to the two that were taken into custody in Tallahassee, like I said. There was also a sophisticated worldwide computer network immediately that had broadcasted instructions to this is fucking sickening, dude. So they had all the telex transcript, much like an email or a fax, but it was just a computer transmission, like, essentially an email.
Yeah.
But after these two were arrested, there was a sophisticated worldwide broadcast that instructed various locations. It said, participants, quote, participants to move the children and keep them moving through different jurisdictions, and instruction on how to avoid police attention. This seems like a very intricate sex trade operation, in my opinion.
Yeah,
There's
definitely does.
Nothing more, nothing less. The FBI said that they would indeed, 2 days after the incident, that they would aid in the investigation. During the search warrant, the mothers were found, and the children, the mother said that, yeah, the children were in the care of, I can't even remember, Michael Hallwell and Ammerman. They said, yeah, they're with those two guys. That's okay. But part of their process was to wean these children away from their mothers, to take them away from their moms. While the children got moved to protective custody with Child Protective Services, they received over 500 calls from different women stating that they were the mother of the children. Over 500 different fucking calls. Maybe not necessarily 500 different women, but 500 different calls from women stating that they were the mother of the children. Also, once the children were taken into Child Protective Services, someone knew where the children were at. At this point, the children weren't quite hidden yet, but they were receiving multiple bomb threats at the location of where the children were being held. So someone was calling and threatening to inflict violence, some type of bomb threat on the location where the children were being held.
Very smart.
Yeah. Among the evidence from the raids of the two DC locations, it's purported that photographs were found of men dressed in white robes holding a fucking goat head.
Shit.
Children engaging in bloodletting of the goat, and one even holding a goat fetus. The kids holding the goat fetus. Some speculate on satanic significance, as Baphomet.
Yeah. Baphomet. Yep.
Baphomet depicts the devil as a goat, and many artifacts and literature of Luciferian occult symbology. All these photos were in a file named The Execution of Henrietta and Igor. The mothers claim this was done for hands-on educational purposes, and the meat of the goat was eaten. Also, a vast amount of informational documents were found during the raid, such as techniques into mind control and child trafficking. Due to the evidence being found, a farm also belonging to the Finders in Nethers, Virginia, was also raided. And this fucking dumbass, this guy from the interview, he talks about what... How do you answer for that? You have pictures of kids holding goat fetuses, cutting goats open, being surrounded by men in white robes, and this guy asked him about it, and Michael Hallwell had an answer about what the fuck was going on with
Let's see if his answer is what I would say.
the goats.
That's
Coming
wild.
together.
But one of the things they found was a photo album entitled "The Execution of Henrietta and Igor."
Right, those were our goats. Those were
Okay.
our pet goats. That was a theatrical thing. We did keep 2 goats over a summer,
Mhm.
and then it was time to. They're not going to survive the winter because we're not around all the time. So we killed them and ate them. We ate the goats, which is a legal thing to do.
Mhm.
But the 2 men, Danny and Stan, who did that, decided to do a little dress up fun thing and make it an experience for the children. Like
Mhm.
here's these 3 and 4 and 5-year-old kids. We're going to show you what happens to animals before you eat them.
Mhm.
This is education.
Mhm.
You eat meat, right? Well, this is how meat is made. You
Mm.
kill an animal.
Mhm.
So it was educational, but they did it in a fun way. He put on this executioner's mask.
A
Execution.
fun way.
Put on an executioner's mask. Fucking kids, dude.
That's how I would have explained it.
And writes his little
Okay, I'll
commentaries
keep that
on
in mind.
each picture, Stan, gives the death sentence or
Oh wow.
it was in fun,
Uh-huh.
but the whole
But they took it all as this is some satanic ritual.
right. It was not. It was it was a classroom experience for the children,
Uh-huh.
and we did eat their goat meat. We did eat the meat,
Mhm.
and but yeah, the whole satanic thing was like no. Killing animals and eating them is not satanic. It's just what people do all the time.
Right.
And
But you
have-
may have even said something like a blood ritual because they mentioned something about finding. You don't remember anything about that?
There was no. I don't believe the term blood ritual was used on any of the photos. No.
Okay. Yeah.
It was all meant in fun and theater.
And one of the things they claims that there were sex orgies involving children.
Not true. Not true. The children were never involved.
Huh.
And the orgies were pretty lightweight. It's like
So there was orgies. He's
There
not
was.
he's not denying
And he
orgies.
says earlier in the interview that one of his favorite things about being in the cult was the sexual openness. And these were lightweight orgies. There was no fat people in these orgies. They were. You hear him say these are
One of the things they claims that there were sex orgies involving
lightweight
children.
orgies.
not true. Not true. The children were never involved.
Huh.
And the orgies were pretty lightweight. It's like
See,
you know,
no fat people at these
yeah,
orgies.
little oral
Nobody
sex,
over
intercourse,
135.
and we're all done. It was, but because we're all in the same room together. That I guess that is an orgy.
Were the children in the room?
No.
Okay.
Of course
But,
not.
right.
The these are all just rumors. People just made stuff up.
Uh-huh. So let me just
I
a
swear one
couple
of the kids was
comments,
looking into my asshole,
from the
though.
reports, and I just love to get your hit on them. It says it was noted in a customs report that the children, when you guys were arrested, were unable to accurately identify themselves or their custodians, and they could not.
We already talked about that.
Mhm.
I think one thing a lot of people have gone through before is you having sex, and your dog will come in and lick your butthole.
Hasn't happened to me, but
One traumatic thing that
my
happened. to me-
mother-in-law did that to me once. I didn't like it too much.
I was about to say I had it happen to me one time. I turned around, it was some fucking fat kid that was staying the night. It was me, and it was my dad. And I did it to him.
Oh shit.
Oh. Now, the children were placed in child protective custody, and there were bomb threats immediately made to the agency. The leader of the finders, Marion Petty, was said to rent rooms to high-ranking world government officials. At the warehouse during the raid, they found activity between Costa Rica and the finders, the Bahamas and the finders, London, Germany, the Soviet Union, Japan, Hong Kong, China, Russia, and North Korea.
Whew.
They found various files labeled Palestinians, and they also found a large document called, quote, Pentagon break-in. There were immense amounts of daycare information that was filed at the finder's warehouse. Also, there was a large collection of answers to want ads for tutors and babysitters. All very weird fucking things, dude.
Very.
They had a movie-style set set up all around the warehouse. There were jars of urine and feces that were used for satanic rituals. And this document that I found says, you'll recall that in both mind control torture as well as the satanic rituals at daycare facilities, kids were forced to eat shit, drink piss,
Oh.
and have excrement smeared on them as a standard occult operation procedure. Over the next 3 to 5 days, the Washington Metro PD was tasked with sorting, reviewing, and logging all the confiscated evidence. while the Metro Police Department was leaving one of the locations, they saw pictures of the kids being carried out. They saw the picture, the kids that were in like bondage and stuff and being sexually assaulted via bondage, and the media saw these pictures coming out, and then that's when they went forward with their stories, like, oh my God, this sexual cult, the Finders, and it blew up in the media. It blew up all over the world that these Finders were finding and sexually assaulting and sexually victimizing children. So finally, there's some dark notoriety being brought to this cult and what they're doing to these fucking children, and they're all going to be taken down. The very next day, on February 7th, so we're 3 days past the incident at this point. While Ramon Martinez, the U.S. Customs agent, was signing his 5-page customs report, the Washington Post was also breaking the big sensational story with the following headline: officials describe cult rituals and child abuse case. But despite all this clear evidence of child pornography, you'll remember the pictures of kids in the van, not to mention the physical exams of John Pope and Mary, where the doctor said these kids have been sexually assaulted.
They had
There's
pink socks.
trauma to their fucking genitals.
Yeah.
There's trauma. Sorry, speaking of children, my child just walked in. For what? The black and white comforter. I have no idea. Is it back there? Yep. Okay. Okay. Trauma to their fucking genital.
What was that?
Oh, it was the okay. Trauma to their fucking genitals.
Yeah.
There's trauma. I gotta go back and edit this part out. Sorry, speaking of sorry everybody. Hello, YouTube. Rob went to go pee. One of my children just came in the room while we were talking about children being hurt, which is fascinating. Hopefully she didn't shitting on the comforter. My friend Joe Egger said he loves me. I love you as well, Joe. Thank you for everything that you've ever done for me, Joe. You guys see A. Leon back there? Yeah, he's got a name tag. It says A. Leon.
I didn't even notice that.
Like Leon White as Invader.
Woo!
Yeah, okay. Let's get back on this. Bam. Okay, we had to stop, and my daughter came in, just busted in.
Yeah, you can't talk about the sexual abuse of a child with a kid in the room.
Exactly. So they have all this evidence. Despite all of this clear evidence of all these things happening, the physical reports, the pictures, the global transactions of buying children from China, and the global transactions from all over the world, the two gentlemen in custody in Tallahassee were released from custody. If you can believe that.
No.
For just one moment. I'm sorry. I'm all fucking
You're flabbergasted over here.
discombobulated here. The Washington Metro Police Department said that the Finders were not criminals.
Okay.
The Washington Post February 10th headline reads, DC police Finders are odd but not criminal. The day before, at a press conference, the DC police chief Maurice T. Turner Jr. told the world the bold-faced lie. The lifestyle of the so-called Finders organization may differ from societal norm, but so far the Metro Police Department has not uncovered any evidence of criminal wrongdoing by members of the group. The 3 to 5 days that they said it would take to process the evidence from the crime scene of the warehouse in the duplex turned into 3 to 5 weeks. It wasn't until March 31st, nearly 2 months later after the initial arrests, that Customs Officer Martinez contacted the Metro Police Department's lead detective Bradley to assess the evidential findings and presumably resume the joint investigation with a meeting arranged for April 2nd or 3rd. But when Martinez showed up to the Metro Police Department, the lead investigator was nowhere to be found. Instead, his surrogate was instructed to only, quote, discuss the case on a strictly off-the-record basis. And this is from his report. The individual further advised me of circumstance, and this is from the customs investigator. He says, the individual further advised me of circumstances which indicated that the investigation into the activity of the finders had become a CIA internal matter. The Metro Police Department report had been classified secret and was not available for me to review. I was advised that the FBI had withdrawn from the investigation several weeks prior and that the FBI former counterintelligence division had directed the Metro Police Department not to advise the FBI Washington field office of anything that had transpired. No further information will be available. No further action will be taken. It was turned over to the CIA as a fucking internal security matter. The U.S. News reported that Petty.
Okay, I was gonna say what?
When I copy and pasted some of this, it left out fucking letters and all this shit. I don't know why. Petty in 1994 described the finders as a communal, holistic living and learning arrangement, all harmlessly benign. After the 1987 fallout that resulted in many of the women and mothers leaving the group by 1994, the number of finders had fallen by half to 20. Petty stated that his members did freelance journalism, research, and competitor intelligence for a variety of mostly foreign clients, but never for governments. And despite admitting that his late wife was indeed a CIA employee and his son worked with the CIA front Air America, notorious for smuggling opium into the U.S. from the Golden Triangle during the Vietnam War, Petty insisted that he had no relations with the CIA, claiming he sent his wife in to spy on the CIA. The CIA has even admitted that a few finders members were employed by a company that trained CIA personnel in computer software. However, standard CIA protocol calls for CIA or one of its numerous proprietary companies to customarily provide the agency's in-service training. Let me go back to these how's the relation? And he never maintained a relationship with John Pope, his son, that during the interview he talks about how he kind of maintained a relationship with his son, but it was never a normal relationship. He also goes on to talk about how everyone thought it was weird, but he didn't think it was weird. And he kind of tried to cite why it wasn't weird to him. Let me see if I can.
Misdemeanor. The charges were eventually dismissed. They let us go.
Wow.
But yeah, it took 40 days to figure out that they were harmless.
Wow.
In the meantime, they searched all the properties, grabbed all the documents, all the computers, went through everything.
But do you know what the people talk about, that what happened? Why did they think it's very strange? That apparently the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington was doing an investigation. FBI was involved. And at some point, the CIA stepped in, took all the files and said, it's an internal matter, leave it alone. Did you ever hear that?
No, I didn't know that part.
So apparently he had some.
This motherfucker was in jail for this shit.
I don't like this guy's voice.
And he said he didn't hear any of these things, which is exactly what happened. And he said, no, I didn't hear any of that. And it sounds, I don't know what that was.
What the fuck was
It
that?
sounded like a fucking warrior demon just flew through my house.
It's not like a fucking mini train horn.
Game over.
some kind of protection or the CIA somehow. Maybe it's because of his wife, huh? That they stepped in.
There could have been some documents from the CIA in our collection. We had a big library.
Mhm.
There was thousands of books and boxes of papers. I never saw all of them. So
Mhm.
who knows what they found in those boxes?
Right. Well, let's jump into some of the more controversial stuff then. Kind of, you get a
Sure.
beautiful picture there.
Sure.
So, what happened in Tallahassee?
And we already listened to that
Yeah.
part.
So, do you think that government agencies like the CIA pad these people's pockets up until the point to where they get busted? Because obviously these people had money coming in from somewhere with the technology and shit that they
And
had.
he talks about how the game finder or the whatever, the game caller would make them go get jobs, freelance jobs, landscaping, cleaning houses, just a little bit of money for the pot, but they weren't bringing in large amounts of money. So someone was paying them. He also talks about how Petty had full access to David Air Force Base. I think it's David Air Force Base, and how Petty, he says, since he was a former government pilot, that he could come and go as he wanted. And let me tell you something, that's not how it fucking works.
Not
if
at
you're
all.
a pilot in the military, once you get out, you can't just go back to the Air Force Base and be like, I'm hopping in a fucking plane, I'm taking it for a spin real quick.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works. But in his mind, he says in the interview, he says, yeah, he had access to David Air Force Base and he could just come and go. He was he could do whatever he wanted, he could go wherever he wanted. And he was fairly transparent in the interview, but it's so sickening that what transpired, and no one was brought to justice for any of us here. I think
Yes.
this
Any
is the
sort
right
of,
part.
I'm curious, any communications with, I don't know, spirits, aliens, anything like that you knew of?
Not that I know of. And if he did, he would have probably rephrased it as this, spirit told me. He would refer to the Great Spirit, like the Indians do. The Great Spirit talked to me last night, he would say. It kind of gave him an image or a vision or a download, and he would then pass on bits and pieces of it.
And did you ever think or suspect that he was working with somebody or some group?
No.
Really, he was just on his own.
He was a solo, eccentric charismatic
genius.
Yeah.
Charismatic genius.
Exactly. Yeah, he would occasionally travel because as retired military, he could fly on a military plane anywhere to any military base in the world.
Oh,
No.
wow.
So he would go to Greece
not how it
sometimes. He would
works.
go to Japan. Wherever there was a base, he could just grab a flight out of Andrews Air Force
Once
Base.
you're out,
Wow.
you're a civilian at that point.
Go somewhere for free
Andrews Air
because-
Force Base,
because
I'm
he
sorry.
liked to travel.
But I mean,
Right.
the military gave, because he had time in the
That's a
military, and he was
benefit.
close.
That's a benefit.
Okay,
If you're
right.
retired military, you can fly on a military plane if there's space available.
Right.
It's not comfortable. I guess
Right.
it's a military.
I don't know if that's true or not. Like, if you're retired military, you can just hop on a military plane. But as far as like,
I don't see how that could be true.
I don't think it is true. Maybe it was true back then.
Maybe.
It's definitely fucking changed
Pre
since then, for
9/11.
sure. Yeah. And it all is so fishy to me. But the most damning part of all this, all the shit they found, all the pictures, all of the wire transfers,
All the kids with shit all over them.
all the kids with trauma to their bodies.
Mhm.
These guys were in jail for 40 days and released.
Oh my God.
All of the charges were dropped. No charges were brought. The FBI
They had somebody in their back pockets.
closed the case, and it was all of the evidence was given to the CIA, and it was listed as a CIA
internal.
matter.
Wow.
Not to mention the guy, the game caller in charge of all of it, his wife was working for the fucking CIA.
Yeah, that is so suspect. Conflict of interest?
Just a tad.
It is a little bit.
But the overall belief was, in a nutshell, these guys, the finders, they were in charge of finding children, purchasing children. But they maintain this warehouse, this brothel in Washington, D.C., and all of these high-ranking government officials from other countries would come through. So where else would you want to have some place like this? Washington, D.C. And they would essentially hook these leaders up with these children so that they could do bad things to these kids. And I get so fucking sick of hearing about this stuff. Really, it's like when I'm on Facebook, people just put, Pizzagate, child sex trade, child sex slaves, Pizzagate. And I just like some of the outlandish accusations. I'm just like, this cannot be fucking true. And then I stumble upon a story like this, where if you type in, I'll go to Google the Finders Cult FBI. I type that into Google. You go to the fucking the FBI website where they have an entire. This is from their vault. They have over 300 documents of redacted
stuff.
information.
It's like all redacted.
All pertaining to this case that was acquired via the Freedom of Information Act, is what finally they had to release this information after 30 years of it not being readily available. Yeah, all of this. This is from the actual, all of the metro part, the Washington Metro Police Department. All of their stuff is found here, but there's I would say 30 to 40% of this document, and it's goddamn 400 pages, is redacted. I didn't read through all of it. I read the police reports from Tallahassee, and then I read the reports from Investigator Martinez from the U.S. Customs. But isn't this right here on the FBI website is all of this stuff? Isn't that fucking wild,
So
dude?
many redactions. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the shit that pisses me off. Like, you're gonna release documents, but redact half of it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know fucking names, places. Tell me what the fuck's going on.
And it's all right here. And people think like Pizzagate's fake, which it may be fake, but this is not fake. These kids were hurt. These kids were touched. Bad things happened to these kids, unfortunately. And I'm sorry this wasn't a super funny episode. I don't recall anything funny happening in this episode. Normally we're pretty funny guys, but this is just, I felt like this is something that needed to be put out there, something that people needed to hear. Kind of a wild case. So
yeah, that's crazy.
We'll come back with something funny. It's going to be funny. It's going to be lit on Saturdays. So if you want
it is going to be a lot of fun. We always have fun with our live shows. So,
yeah. So check it out on Saturday at the Zoom live show. We're also going to be live and in person for the first time in a long time.
Thank God.
Live show. It's the Warp Wing Brewery in Springboro, Ohio, January 23rd.
Beautiful place.
Oh yeah, lots of really good stuff to drink on that one. So
yeah, I'll be right at home.
Dude, they got good fucking beer.
Yeah, I love that brewery.
They got good beer.
Love it.
So don't forget to check that out. As always, we appreciate you guys listening. You can go to just type in the Finders FBI. That'll come back. If you type in, go to DuckDuckGo, type in the Finders. You can find all the Tallahassee police reports yourself. So I can cite that stuff in the episode description to not be so lazy for once. And you guys can check it all out.
There you go.
All right. So this is kind of a weird one all over the place. Nonetheless, I hope it brought some awareness to that shit. So thanks for listening. We love you so much. Rob Dog loves you. And he's
I do love you
right now.
Yep, I love you. Let's see here. Nick looks like Rowdy Piper and Stone Cold Steve Austin had a love child.
Austin 316 says, I just whipped your ass.
Stone Cold E.T.
When Stone Cold rides a bike, he rides it long and he rides it straight.
Like a Texas rattlesnake.
Like the Texas rattlesnake, Austin 316.
When he's whooping Vince McMahon's ass.
Bret Hart.
No, Ohio is not in a lockdown right now. We just have to, it makes no fucking sense what's going on. We have, everything is pretty much open. You have to wear masks if you go to restaurants or bars until you're seated. It makes no fucking sense whatsoever, but if you're seated and you're actively eating or drinking, you can have your mask off.
Right on. You can do it.
Stone Cold E.T.
Stone Cold E.T. When he rides a bike, he rides it long.
You know, he likes the little cheeseburgers.
I found this podcast recently called God,
The Joe Rogan Experience. I don't know if you ever
No.
heard of it.
what's it called? It's called Story Time with Rob. No, it's called What's Wrong with Wrestling.
Okay.
There's one guy on there that does a Shawn Michaels and a Stone Cold, and
Yeah.
he is so fucking good at the Stone Cold impression that Edge and Christian had them on
No way.
their podcast.
That's
where he
dope.
does such a he gets fucking going. Stone Cold,
Just like Stone Cold cutting a promo.
yeah, dude, it's you can't tell the difference. It's fucking incredible.
Dude, I love Steve. He's my
He said, "I'm gonna I'm gonna stop a mud hole in your ass, and I'm gonna walk it dry." What? he does good. Does
Stone
real good.
Cold's my favorite of all time.
All right, guys, on YouTube, I'm scratching my belly button. Everyone have a great night.
Love you guys.
End.